The Seahawks take the practice field at VMAC today. First official full squad workout of 2024 training camp. First training camp officially under new head coach Mike Macdonald. And some good news on the injury front. Some really good news. I'll share my reaction to that and also take a closer look at the center position. So much attention has been placed on right guard and right tackle for good reason so far this offseason. But are the Seahawks looking to bring in competition and potentially replace presumed incumbent Olu Oluwatimi? And specifically, are they looking for a different type of center? There is certainly evidence to suggest that. The Seahawks start practice today. Let's start this episode of Seahawks Forever.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
Are you excited? Can you feel it? It's palpable, right? It's in the air. We'll finally get some feedback on what the Seahawks are doing today. Full squad workouts. We're going to hear from Mike Macdonald later today. I'll be able to react to that either later tonight or first thing in the morning, so watch for that. Fans will be on the berm today, 2,500 strong, so it'll be the first public practice for the Seahawks and some of their new players. It'd be interesting to see kind of what the vibe and the feel is of practice. How loud's the music going to be? You know, everyone's going to have their attention on that. Really perfect conditions here for the Seahawks to practice under. Not too hot. If you want to support the show, definitely hit that like button, thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit that bell for notification of future episodes. All the other ways to support the channel down below in the description. And a special shout out to Mike. Mike has really been generous in buying me coffees, buying me beers through buymeacoffee.com. Really appreciate the continued support. Thank you, Mike. So we had the PUP list and the non-football injury list come out last week. And it was a little jarring at first because initially there were 12 total names. Then we got a couple of those guys back right away. Anthony Bradford passed his physical. He's off the PUP list. D. Williams, the undrafted free agent wide receiver / kick returner for Tennessee. He's off the PUP list. But the best news of all came yesterday. All of the hand-wringing and understandable nervousness about the Seahawks' two free agent acquisition inside linebackers, Terrell Dotson from Buffalo, Jerome Baker from Miami, not practicing, not seeing the field at all during OTAs or minicamp. Baker we knew about. Talked to Michael Sean Duger about this the other day. He was coming off wrist surgery at the end of the Dolphins campaign. I think he had another lower body injury too, but the Seahawks knew that when they signed him. He had already begun that process, so they were familiar with that timeline. Dotson was more mysterious. There was no known injury when he was signed. In fact, saw something on Seattle Sports 710 last week with a reporter from Buffalo saying it was a surprise to him and the people who covered Dotson in Buffalo that there was an injury. And it was never really specified. It was just classified as a lower body injury. No one knows. Was it an ankle? Was it a knee? Was it an Achilles? Was it a foot? Both of those players passed their physical yesterday and will, we can assume, be on the field today. And that is huge. New scheme, new coaches. Two new inside linebackers replacing the legendary Bobby Wagner and Jordan Brooks, first-round draft pick, who they let go in free agency, ironically enough or coincidentally enough, to Miami. Very, very important. The linebacker and the roles that they play in Mike Macdonald's scheme, incredibly important. Obviously in Baltimore, you had the duo of Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith and had all of that success. So to have those guys on the field finally, going through reps, full speed reps, and digesting all of this defensive install is huge. And also, I think it may ultimately turn out to be an advantage that John Radigan and Patrick O'Connell got so many reps, and the rookie, fourth-round draft pick Tyrese Knight, got all those reps in their place during OTAs and minicamp. So more of a learning curve for those guys as they compete for playing time. So great news. Now, the big question today. when they hit the practice field. We're not going to see him on the practice field. Nobody expected him to. But when they get a chance to talk to Mike Macdonald is, as I said in the video the other day, what's up with 72? In case you missed that, and you should go back and check it out, my conversation with Michael Sean Dugar of The Athletic. Here's what he had to say about the importance of Abe Lucas and finding out where he stands in his recovery from knee surgery. Here's that.
Is Abe, who I'm really focused on, because I think he controls both the floor and the ceiling of the offensive line room. To like if he's gone, the bottom drops out, as we've kind of seen at parts of times last year. Would they start 3 different right tackles last year? 4 maybe. One of them being Jason Peters, who's older than the current head coach. Whereas if you have Abe, I feel like your ceiling is way higher. I feel like you can do so much with your scheme if you just know, man, 72's got it. I feel like you could see that last year as well. So he's the guy. Whenever we get to talk to Mike Macdonald on Wednesday, we'll let the fluffy questions about how was the first day vibes. It can get those out, but then I'm jumping right in there like, yo, what's up with 72? Like, I need to know. We need to know something about what's going on with him.
I love that. Get the fluffy questions out of the way, and then we're going to dig in on what's up with 72. And look, I don't expect a definitive answer from Mike Macdonald. I don't expect him to tell us exactly how healed he is or what day he's going to hit the practice field. But we might get a little bit more information. And just as a reminder, a couple weeks ago, Corbin Smith of Locked On Seahawks and All Seahawks, another credentialed Seahawks beat reporter, joined me on the show and said he's optimistic. There's enough signs that he doesn't think Lucas is going to start the season on the PUP list. Remember, being on the PUP list now is almost meaningless. As soon as Abe is able to practice and pass his physical, he can come off the list at any time. It could happen tomorrow. Once you get into the season, though, and you designate guys on the PUP list, now you got to miss 4 games. Corbin's optimistic that that isn't going to happen. We have seen the videos of Abe lifting and working out without a knee brace. There have been reports of him just walking around on the practice field and around the team and just looking more comfortable than he did last year, looking more healthy. So I'm going to be optimistic until there's evidence otherwise, but hopefully tonight we will get, thanks to Michael Sean, we'll get some additional information from Mike Macdonald. Now, elsewhere on the offensive line, some of the biggest storylines of camp. There's been so much attention focused on right guard, where Christian Haynes was their 3rd pick, number 81 overall, almost universally being lauded as one of the better picks in the draft. If you watch that bootleg podcast episode on the Seahawks last week with Brett Coleman and EJ Snyder called him the best right guard hands down in the draft. Seahawks got a steal at 81. He was generally regarded to be a top 50 player. And yet he did not run with the ones all throughout the offseason. That was McClendon Curtis, the former Chattanooga player who was poached off the Raiders practice squad at the cut to 53 last year and basically stashed on the roster all offseason. Seahawks very high on him. He ran with the ones all throughout OTAs and minicamps, ahead of Christian Haynes. Now, Anthony Bradford, who figures to be in that mix as well, and as I mentioned, is now fully healthy, he was banged up, and so he didn't get a lot of those reps himself either. But there is newfound intrigue around the center position. Olu Oluwatimi, last year's 5th-round pick out of Michigan, the Outland Trophy and Remington Award winner that last season that he played at Michigan. The Outland Trophy goes to the best offensive lineman in college football. The Remington Award winner, the best center in college football. Team captain, didn't allow a single sack his last year at Michigan. Taken in the 5th round last year. Started 2 games when Evan Brown was banged up. Played well. And all throughout the offseason, he has been the unquestioned number 1. The Seahawks bring in Nick Harris from Cleveland, a 4-year veteran who has history playing for Scott Huff, the new offensive line coach at the University of Washington, but he's an undersized guy. Seems like Oluwatimi's the guy. Corbin Smith said, feels good about it, thinks the team likes him. Just as a reminder, I went back. Here is what John Schneider had to say last year as they sat down after day 3 of the 2023 draft. Here is his little synopsis of what they like about Olu.
Another grown man, incredibly smart, knows the game, natural-born leader, awesome week at the Senior Bowl. You can't move him. I mean, he's just super stout, really good person, and top-level competitor.
Says a lot of good things about him. One thing he does not mention as an asset is his athletic ability. Doesn't say moves well, gets out and pulls well. Says he's stout, you can't move him. The new system, most who study this kind of stuff and know more about it than I do, seem to think, even though Ryan Grubb has a history of running a combination of different blocking schemes, some gap power, in some wide zone, some inside zone. Most people, Brett Coleman was on the show talking about this in specific, thinks that they're going to run wide zone, which requires interior offensive linemen that can get out and move, that can pull, that can get to the second level, that can get into combo blocks. If that's not Oluwatimi's game, then maybe they're looking for someone who fits that description a little bit more. And I hadn't thought of this. You've heard me on this show many, many times talk about how bullish I am on Oluwatimi and see him as a guy who could hold that position down long term, even if he's, you know, I've always likened him to that player that, you know, he may never make a Pro Bowl, but he could be your long-term starter. Just feels like that kind of guy. Team captain, all those things that Schneider just talked about. But then the Seahawks, it was announced Monday, and haven't heard anything new, but yesterday it was supposed to have happened. The Seahawks bring in Connor Williams for a visit. Now, just a little refresher on who Connor Williams is. Played at Texas, played some tackle, guard, and center at Texas. Came out in the 2018 draft, was drafted in the second round, the 50th pick overall by the Dallas Cowboys. He was a consensus All-American at Texas, but again, had some positional versatility. Mostly played center, though. But the Cowboys, because they were pretty set at center at the time, played him at left guard. About halfway through his rookie year, he earned the starting spot at left guard. Wasn't great. Had some struggles. Second year, earned the starting position from camp on, tore his ACL. Came back in 2020, regained his starting spot on the left side, but again, at times struggled. Cowboy fans weren't huge Connor Williams believers and truthers. 2022, he decides to move on. He leaves in free agency, signs a 2-year deal with the Dolphins, who move him back to center, and that's where it all clicked. His natural position. He was the starter there for 2 years. Last year was the second highest graded center, according to PFF, in the league. And then week 14, tears his ACL again. And I don't have it in front of me. I'm not sure if it was the same leg or the other leg. If you know, hit me in the comments. So he tears his ACL late in the year. Now, we know that ACL tears are not what they used to be. We saw Jordan Brooks tear his ACL late in the season 2 years ago and came back and was ready to start week 1 at inside linebacker, for crying out loud, without even wearing a knee brace for the Seahawks. Remarkable. And we're seeing more and more of that. Daniel Jones tore his ACL second half of the season last year for the Giants. Looks like he's good to go to start week 1 for the Giants. And granted, a little bit different playing interior offensive line and his quarterback, but that's kind of what we're talking about here. Now, some immediate speculation was, well, this guy would be great to have because of his versatility. He can play guard and center. And yes, while that is true, his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, came out in June and said not only is his rehab going so well that they expect Connor Williams to be 100% ready to go in time for training camp, which should be now, but also that he wants to play center, that's his goal. Now, ultimately, it's up to the team, right? You can sign with the team. They can promise you the moon, and then they can move you. Not really the Seahawks' MO, right? They want a guy. They want to get the most out of players. They want to put players in a position to succeed. No signing has been announced yet. No other visits have been announced yet, although I've already seen 49er fans and content creators speculating on whether they should sign Connor Williams. So I don't know if a visit has happened there or not. I haven't really seen any information regarding that. But it's certainly intriguing because this is a player who's in the prime of his career. He just turned 27 years old in May and has some really good tape at center in the recent past. This is not filler. This is not a grizzled veteran, a Laken Tomlinson type signing just as a stopgap or to add a camp body for, a lottery ticket, potentially to add some competition. This is a guy who, if he does fully recover and stay healthy, has an opportunity to be a really good starting center for somebody in this league moving forward long term. Now, what would it cost? Probably not much because of the injury history. That deal he signed with the Dolphins 2 years ago, coming off, being the Cowboys starter at left guard, 2 years, $14 million. I don't know the guarantee on that. I would imagine that Williams himself's probably looking for a 1-year deal. Probably looking to get out there, play, find a good fit for himself where he has an opportunity to play well, get back into the free agent market next year when he'll still be 27 by the time free agency rolls around. He won't even have turned 28 yet. That's what I would imagine. And we know how much the Seahawks like to do 1-year deals. Now, new cap guy, Joey Lane, he's gone about some things a little bit differently. So maybe there's something they could do a little creatively to make a low cap hit this year with maybe an option year, a void year or two, give him a little more cash up front, but also kind of give the team an option if he plays well and they want to stick with him long term. But probably a 1-year deal. Remember, the Seahawks moved some things around a month or so ago. They've got $8.5 million in cap space. They could easily sign Connor Williams to a 1-year deal that would have some low guarantees and incentives built into it, which I'm guessing is the kind of deal he's going to get at this juncture. So it could be done. Why would they? I know I can hear it, right? The immediate reaction from some fans would be, wait a minute, I thought Olu Oluwatimi was good. This may not necessarily mean that they're giving up on Olu Oluwatimi in any sense of the word. It's simply a rare opportunity to bring in a guy who's proven in the league and is in his prime physically and has massive upside. And B, possibly get a guy whose athletic profile fits more with what Scott Huff and Ryan Grubb want to do, which is to run some of that outside zone where your center is moving more, has to get out on reach blocks and get to the second level, potentially even pull. Connor Williams' athletic profile is much, much better than Olu Oluwatimi. And just for some reference, Olu Oluwatimi coming out of Michigan, his relative athletic score, which if you're not familiar with it, go to RAS, Google it. And the guys over there do such a great job of taking all of the testing numbers from combines and pro days and plugging them in: height, weight, speed, short area, quickness, short shuttle, 3-cone drill, 40 time, 10-yard split, 20-yard split, bench press, strength, broad jump, long jump, all those things, compiling it into a numerical grade. Olu Oluwatimi's RAS 7.93. Ran a 5.440. Connor Williams, RAS, and this is on a scale of 1 to 10, was a 9.5. Right? He's a little bit bigger. Olu's 6'3", 309. Connor 6'5", 312. Ran a 5 flat 40. Jumped 34 inches in the vertical. So a much better athletic profile. And then you look at what else is on the roster, right? Nick Harris, mentioned him already. He's a very undersized center. Think more like Joey Hunt, who the Seahawks had on their practice squad and even active roster. Started some games previously. 6 foot, 300 pounds. Undersized. And not, you would think, okay, well, he maybe he's more athletic. His RAS was a little incomplete. He didn't do the 3-cone or the short shuttle, but it was 6.83 when you take everything else into account. Not as big, not as athletic. So this could simply be an opportunity, a team looking to take a shot on a guy, not promise him anything. Hey, come in and compete with our guy, but he's a different player. And if he's 100% healthy, as much as I like and have stumped for Olu Oluwatimi on this show, if Connor Williams is healthy, and you ask me who I want as our starting center, it's him. It's him. And he does have that center guard versatility, which Olu Oluwatimi has never played guard, so we don't know. People have suggested and assumed that move could be made, but it's not every player can do that. But there was another signing this week that leads me to believe that perhaps this has more to do with the athletic profile than it does their feelings about Olu Oluwatimi. And make no mistake about it, if Connor Williams were to come in, sign tomorrow, be 100% healthy, win that job, Olu, you can do a lot worse as a backup center than a guy with the track record of Olu. But he also might carry a little bit of trade value at some point. Anyway, Seahawks signed another very interesting player this week. And I don't know how this guy slipped through the cracks and didn't sign with someone else. But they signed an undrafted free agent rookie named Jalen Sundell. And the more you look at Sundell, the more interesting this signing becomes. The other center on the roster to this point is the Seahawks' own undrafted free agent. They signed out of Penn State, Mike Nowitzki. But Sundell fits a very similar athletic profile to Connor Williams. He is 6'5", 301. He was a 4-year starter at FCS powerhouse, North Dakota State University. And while last year he was a consensus FCS All-American at left tackle, shows you how athletic he is, guess what he played for the first 3 years at North Dakota State? Yeah, he was a center. He profiles as a center. And here, I'm looking for... Oh, I thought I had that. Oh, I've got it. Anyway, his RAS score... 9.35, much closer to Connor Williams' profile than Olu Oluwatimi's. And also, if you think, well, but how stout are these guys? We just heard John Schneider talk about how you can't move Olu Oluwatimi. Well, the strength numbers, Olu Oluwatimi did 29 reps at the combine at 225. Connor Williams did 26. So did Jalen Sundell. So these guys have just as much upper body strength as well, and much, much more athletic. Here is a little bit more background on Sundell. One of the reasons that he might not have got drafted or signed right away is he had a foot injury at the combine, and so he only did the bench. He tied for 7th there among interior offensive linemen. And while his strength tested well, Sundell's athleticism is what has scouts excited. This is what Lance Zierlein, who does such a great job writing the draft profiles for NFL.com, had to say about Sundell. Athletic with a multi-positional background, Sundell will be at his best in a move blocking scheme that allows him to pull or get out in space on stretch plays. He has the ability to get to cutoff blocks and the fluidity to adjust and tag targets in space. Pretty clear to me when you put together Williams and Sundell that they might prefer a different athletic profile than what they have in Olu Oluwatimi. Now, that doesn't guarantee, it doesn't mean that they're looking to replace Olu Oluwatimi no matter what. Doesn't even guarantee if they were to sign Williams tomorrow that he would win the job. But I do find it interesting, and it's certainly something that we'll be keeping an eye on as we move into camp. And that starts today, 3 o'clock Pacific time. The Seahawks hit the field. If you're listening to this after that, then check for my next episode. I'll record either late tonight or early in the morning, and I will have sound from Mike Macdonald's press conference after practice, as well as anyone else's that I think is newsworthy. And certainly we'll pass along thoughts from some of those guys that we've had on the show that cover the team as well. So look for that as we... man, it's time, you guys. It's happening, right? And it's going to move pretty fast now. August 3rd is their mock game. Then we get into the preseason. That's going to be here tomorrow. Until then, check the description again for different ways to support the channel. I've teased this on Twitter the other day. Stay tuned for some pretty exciting news about the channel, all made possible by your support and the growth the channel has seen. Thank you so much for that. In the meantime, follow me on Twitter at Seahawks Forever. I'm Dan. This is Seahawks Forever. Forever and always, go Hawks.